Good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube at WCEG Network. I'm Celeste Giordano, your show host, along with my fabulous co-host Sherita Herring for the next hour on global legacy and wealth building. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. We also would like for you to subscribe to our free YouTube channel at WCEG Network. We have some new platforms. If you have any Apple products, whether it's TV, watch, mobile phones, just search WCEG Talk Radio. If you have an Android, go to Google Play Store and search the WCEG Talk Radio. Last but not least, our disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. And happy almost Ides of March. It's March 14th. Hey, Sherita, how are you?
I am amazing. I am amazing. And as always, I thank you so much for letting me co-host with you. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely, Sherita. And we get 2 times this month. Usually you're on our nonprofit show, which is the 4th Tuesday of every month. And you have a special guest for us here today, and would like to welcome Monique Wells with Wells Foundation. And we're going to get to her in a minute because I want you to properly introduce this young lady who's coming all the way from Paris today with us. But Sherita, tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on right now. And so for our audience and listeners, tell them about Sherita Herring.
Well, again, I'm so glad to be on with you. My organization is the Philanthropy Alliance Foundation, formerly the Creative Images Foundation. And I've been in business since August 1994, where I've helped to develop over 600 organizations, raised well over 30 million for global projects, and have gotten to meet wonderful, wonderful people like Monique Wells with the Wells International Foundation that we will hear from later. And just in brief, the way that Monique and I met, it was on the 8th of this month, which is Women's International History Day. That's the day that Monique and I met probably 15 years ago, because she and I both were being honored at a Women's History Month event. And ever since then, I just wanted to just hold on to her coat strings, her coattail, and you will hear more about her. So anyway, my business, that's how I met her, and that's why I was being honored for the community work that I have been doing all over the world. And so thank you again for having me on.
Absolutely. And the name of your company is?
Philanthropy Alliance Foundation.
Absolutely. And how can our audience and listeners get a hold of you, Sherita?
Well, my website is philanthropyalliance.org. And I encourage people to go and join me on my Facebook page, not at the Sherita Herring page, because that page is full, but join me at Beverly Hills 2 Barnyard. And that's the word 2, Beverly Hills 2 Barnyard. And join me there, because that's where you'll find out all about my classes and everything, but you'll also get to meet my new crew, which is the Barnyard Crew. And you can see what's happening with me ever since having my office in Beverly Hills to now living on the Barnyard and homesteading.
Absolutely. And how is the weather there in Arkansas today?
It's pretty cold today. It's about 50, but we've been blessed enough to miss the storms. And spring is coming in, and you'll probably hear my roosters crowing because they're standing outside the door wondering why I haven't come back outside. But it's just amazing. And like you keep hearing me say, and Monique keeps hearing me say, I didn't even know that I could live the joy that I'm in right now. And only God knew to bless me with where I am now, living in Arkansas after 30 years in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. And we enjoy following you on social media and everything. So thank you so much. And, I've always labeled you the queen of grant writing. And, I'm a co-founder along with Sarah Poe, Women of Community Impact. And usually our nonprofit show is the 4th Tuesday of each month. And the 2nd Tuesday of each month is our for-profit show. And so it's just been a pleasure having you being a part of the Women of Community Impact as an ambassador, as well as holding some classes for some of our entrepreneurs and nonprofits in the community, teaching them about grant writing and budgeting and things of this nature. And we can't thank you enough and look forward to some more classes that we put together this year with you and your organization. So without any further ado, what I'd love for you to do is to introduce our guest tonight, Sherita.
Oh my gosh. Dr. Monique Wells is an absolutely, first of all, phenomenal woman. But she's an artist. And I'm not even going to read this because I want her to tell you who she is, but she is a vet pathologist. She is someone that is introducing people to the culture there in Paris, France. She promotes the arts with youth. She has a program that she and I had done together with it, which is the Youth Veterinarian Program, where she's teaching young people how to go into the vet arena, and just so much more that I can't wait to delve into. So I'm not going to introduce her any further. Dr. Monique Wells, I want to thank you for coming on as my friend, colleague, and it's just so happy to not only introduce you to my two friends, Penny and to Celeste, but to the ladies that are listening into the world. So thank you.
I want to thank you for inviting me. I was really excited when I saw the title of this program, Building Your Legacy Business. And because legacy is something that everything that you've just described, Sherita, is legacy. It's my legacy. It's the legacy of the Wells International Foundation, which is the organization that you helped me found. I have to say that first and foremost, that it's because of Sherita that the Wells International Foundation exists. She is the person who introduced me to the concept of even having a nonprofit and all the things that having a nonprofit could allow a person to do. And she actually coached me on how to found the nonprofit and how to be a nonprofit executive director and founder. And she actually submitted our paperwork and got our application approved in 17 days flat. And so I am eternally grateful to you, Sherita.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, now, I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, I said this earlier, that Dr. Monique Wells is coming to us from Paris. And for our audience and listeners, we really appreciate that, because you're on a different time frame from us. And tell our audience and listeners what time it is over there, and anything special before we get started that you would like to share about that beautiful city and country that you're in.
All right. So I am living in Paris, France. I have lived here since 1992. So it's 30 years plus that I have been here. I absolutely love it. What you see behind me is it's a backdrop. It's not out my window. But it's definitely, it's a gorgeous photograph of dusk in Paris. And the Eiffel Tower, of course, is the most iconic symbol of Paris. And it is 10:09 p.m. here. We are not on daylight saving time yet in France. We will go on daylight savings time on the 26th of March. So between here and the East Coast, there is now a 5-hour difference in between here and Central Time. It's a 6-hour difference. And I am originally from Houston, Texas. So I would be in Central Time if I were in my homestead.
So Paris also does daylight saving time. I thought that was just a US thing.
No.
Okay. Now, speaking of Paris, how do you like living abroad?
I absolutely love living abroad. I've been here 30 years plus, and it's purely by choice.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I'm putting you on the
back.
spot now, Monique, but her French, I mean, it's so beautiful. Monique, say something like how wonderful it is to be on the show, or say something in French.
C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici parmi vous, les belles femmes de WCEG. Voilà.
And what did you say?
Harley,
I said,
What does parlez-vous?
Parlez-vous means, do you speak?
Okay, parlez-vous.
Mhm. And it's WCEG. The way that you pronounce G and J are opposite in English and French. And so I always mix the two up when I'm speaking, always.
Ah,
Yes,
it sounds so beautiful.
thank you.
Yes,
Merci beaucoup.
merci beaucoup. Just it makes you just want to just like, oh, I just sound so pretty. I mean, it sound pretty, right?
You know, it's like Sherita getting ready for the radio show, getting all ready, and like I'm spraying perfume, and it's like nobody can smell this perfume.
But you can.
I can,
And
but
when you
I
feel
smell
beautiful,
good.
yeah, when you feel beautiful, it makes you, be a certain way. And so
Yeah.
now, I again, Celeste, I could just talk to Monique forever, so I don't want to overtake the program. So I'll let you ask a question.
Well, so, I know you gave a little introduction, and I think we had asked her to give us a little background on her career. So I'm just going to just see if she would, start with that. Just give us a little background on your career, Monique, please.
Certainly. So I am a veterinarian, and I specialize in pathology and toxicology. So that's the first thing that I tell people when they ask me about my profession. So veterinary pathologist and toxicologist. My husband and I have a travel planning service called Entree to Black Paris Tours. And I am also the founder and CEO of the Wells International Foundation. And I was alluding to that earlier. I am also the president of a French nonprofit organization called Les Amis de Buford Delaney. And Sherita mentioned Buford Delaney before. Actually, I founded the French nonprofit before founding the US nonprofit. And the first project that I did through the Wells International Foundation was intricately linked with the work that I do as the president of Les Amis de Buford Delaney. And that is to honor, preserve, and extend the legacy of the painter Buford Delaney, an African-American man who was born in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1901 and died in Paris in 1979.
Oh, and the story behind him is so unbelievable. And it's because of Monique's work and her, when people would tour and she would even take them to his grave, that his hometown, where is it, Monique?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, Tennessee. Now they're erecting a museum. They're building, they're taking his childhood home and making that part of the museum or something, aren't they?
Yes, exactly.
But what I also found out through Monique, she was instrumental in them not digging his grave up. So Monique, tell the story about that.
So I was writing an article for the travel business, which at the time was called Discover Paris. We rebranded, but that's separate. In any event, I was writing an article about African-American grave sites in and around Paris, and I wanted to include James Baldwin in my article, but James Baldwin is not actually buried in Paris. He's not even buried in France, even though this is where he died. He died in the south of France, but his body was repatriated to New York and buried there. So in order to talk about James Baldwin, I decided that I would talk about his friend and mentor, Buford Delaney. And I learned that Buford Delaney was buried in a cemetery outside of Paris. It's part of the Paris cemetery system, but not actually in the city limits. And I asked friends of his, Les Amis de Buford Delaney means friends of Buford Delaney. I asked friends of Buford where he was buried, and they told me, and I went out to the cemetery to find his grave. And when they were giving me all this information, they said, well, please find out if Buford Delaney is still buried there. And I said, well, why would he not be? Where would he go?
Yeah.
And they said, well, don't you know, in France, you don't keep your grave forever unless someone continues to pay for your space. And it had been 30 years since he died, and they were not at all sure that he was still in the ground.
Wow.
So I went out to the cemetery and inquired, and was told that, yes, he was still there, but that he was going to be exhumed that year. And I went out to the actual division where he's buried and found that it was a pauper's division, where there are very few stones compared to the other divisions in the cemetery. And there are very few stones, and no one had told me that his grave was not actually marked. So I had to ask two guards who I saw walking past that particular division to help me find his particular grave site. And they individually, walked it off for me and said, here is where it is. And I took pictures, and I went back and I told his friends, he's there, but they're going to dig him up this year. And that was the whole start of everything.
And what timing, right? Because you could have asked a year later after he was dug up.
Exactly.
So there's a whole lot more to this story, but Monique ended up, he got a headstone, and she had a whole big event. And didn't you even put a plaque on where he used to stay or something like that? I mean,
we have erected 2 plaques in Buford Delaney's honor on buildings in Montparnasse, which was the neighborhood where he lived. And even that, which is a wonderful thing, and it's not an easy thing either. But I still felt that I had not done enough to honor this man who has such a poignant and powerful story. So I decided that I wanted to do an exhibition of his work, original paintings and works on paper. And that is when I decided to found the US nonprofit to raise money to do that show. And we did that show in Paris. Thanks to Sherita's help in getting the US nonprofit founded so that I could raise US dollars to do this art exhibition, which we did in Paris in February, March 2016. And I've never looked back.
I mean, she's brought youth now that it never would have even been able to travel to Paris. And now she's brought youth groups to Paris. And I just applaud you. It's because of Monique and people like her that so many young people now are not only into the arts, but they're attending arts events. They're going to art galleries. They're attending plays. They're going to see the opera. A lot of arts and cultures facilities and theaters have been closing down until people like Monique are bringing awareness to audiences that normally were not into that side of the arts world. And there was even a large, Monique, when you and I were doing one proposal and we were talking about how the audiences lacked BIPOC faces, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And so when you are not including those and what was it, Monique, like 80% or something of artists being in galleries were white men?
Yes.
The women didn't have representation. African Americans, Latinos were not getting representation. And so it takes the kind of work that Monique does in those arenas that brings the exposure. And it's, again, people started traveling from his hometown, and they even came to your conference or something.
They came to the art exhibition that I just talked about. 11 people came from Knoxville to Paris to see that show.
Yes. So and she hates to say this, but she is the Renaissance. She has started the Renaissance of Buford Delaney. And that's why so many people now know about him. It was just her taking those steps, even keeping him from being exhumed, that did that. And so again, Celeste, that's why I say I am a fan. There's so many things that I could go on and on, but let me let you speak.
Well, first of all, I have family that live right outside of Knoxville. They live in Halls, Tennessee and Maynardville, Tennessee. So I look forward when I go every month to Knoxville. Look forward to looking that up and checking that museum out. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's great.
For sharing that. And I'll report back to you and let you know. So my question to you is, what is the story? I guess, was that the story behind the U.S. nonprofit or?
There's the story behind the U.S. nonprofit.
Okay. And I've read that the Wells Foundation is active locally to globally. Give us some examples of this besides.
Okay, so locally, so WIF, I call the organization WIF, WIF for short. And we're active locally in Houston, Texas, which is where we're domiciled. That's my hometown. We started with a program that we launched with the Houston Public Library, specifically at a branch called the Johnson Branch, which is the branch where I grew up reading. And we did a readathon called People in Pajamas. And it was an all-day readathon. Everybody came to the library in pajamas, adults included. And we had adults reading to children all day. And for each segment of the event, children got to take home 2 books. So our purpose was it was threefold. It was one, to introduce children to the idea of going to the library and having fun. 2, to help children start or build upon home libraries. And 3, to introduce parents, because parents did come and witness what was going on during the course of the day. It was to encourage those parents to begin reading to their children at home if they weren't doing that already. So that was something that was local, and we did that 2 years in partnership with the Houston Public Library. When we talk about global, our first women's events were held in Paris, but we had people come from the United States to Paris to participate in what I called the LLC workshop. So leadership, communication, and creativity workshops. And these were designed for women leaders, women who are very, very, how shall I say, high achieving women, women who have achieved a high level of, say, status is not really the word that I want, but they are highly placed wherever it is that they are working, whether they are running their own business or whether they are in a corporation. And our whole premise was to bring these women together to learn how creativity can feed communication and help them become better leaders. And we did that for 2 years. And then we did a bigger live event in Paris in 2019 called The Successful Woman, Lifestyle, Legacy, and Leading by Example. And those 3 L's are the cubed in our membership program called the L Cubed Alliance now. So that is it's a global service. And we have women from both sides of the Atlantic participating in that.
Plus, you have taken 300 young girls out of Atlanta to Paris virtually.
Virtually, yes. Yes. So we have done our virtual Black Paris experience since 2020. And at the last count, we are just under 1,000 people who have experienced that since 2020.
And they did it for New Year's, Celeste, and I mean, brought in the new year in Paris. And it is an experience, almost like, you know, how when people put on the goggles and they literally feel like they're there.
Right.
But they meet live, and she's talking and taking them on tour. And just the reviews from that alone were unbelievable.
It's magnificent.
Now, what ladies you said there was 300 women from Atlanta?
300 young girls from, what's the school, Monique?
The school is Coretta Scott King Young Women's Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
And their principal she wanted to start a global citizenship kind of curriculum for her students. And when she found out that they would be able to travel virtually to Paris and do the walking tour with me, it was a requirement for all students in the school to attend.
You know, Celeste, you and Penny both, I need to introduce you to Maxine Kane, who's there in Atlanta. She and Monique, when I introduced them, they developed a really great relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's how Monique was connected to the school. But she's mm-hmm. very busy with STEAM and STEM programs for young women there in Atlanta that I think the two of you would really benefit from meeting Maxine. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So do you do this, this virtual tour? Do you, was that a one-time thing, or is that something that you do often?
Well, I won't say that we do it often, but we do it continually. It's a service that the Wells International Foundation provides. It's called the Virtual Black Paris Experience, and it falls under our travel and study abroad strategic focus area. And the purpose of the Wells International Foundation is to cultivate global citizenship through education and culture. And so we're doing that in a lot of different ways. We're doing it through literacy. We're doing it through travel, study abroad. We're doing it through women's empowerment. We're doing it through the arts. We're doing it through STEAM education.
and anytime I see someone going to Paris, I say, look, you really need to connect with Dr. Wells and her tour program, because see, when you already have met someone and you're going to a new place, that alone can enhance your trip.
Yes.
And Monique and her husband and their program, it takes you to the restaurants. It if I'm not mistaken, Monique, it provides them with the African American experience in the
Yes,
arts and culture that also helped with the City of Lights, right?
yes,
Can you
yes.
tell them a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Entree to Black Paris is the name of the for-profit organization that my husband and I run together. And that is a French business. And it is, I'll say 95% of what we offer are walking tours and activities that focus on the African diaspora experience in Paris. We're talking about history, we're talking about culture, and we're talking about contemporary life. And we have 15 distinct walking tours in Paris that focus on different aspects of that history, culture, and contemporary life. And we also work with a certified guide who does a visit to the Louvre, where she takes people on a visit where you explore Black images in European art. I have a relationship with an organization called the Academy of Culinary Art for the Creole World. And so we can do not only traditional French cooking experiences and wine tastings, but we have also done several events that focus on Creole cuisine from Martinique and Guadeloupe. And I mean, I'm passionate about food as well, in case you haven't been able to tell. And I actually wrote a cookbook years and years ago called Food for the Soul. A Texas expatriate nurtures her culinary roots
Well,
in
I didn't
Paris.
know that. Oh my God.
You
I thought
didn't know that, Sherita?
no.
Oh God, so it's been so long ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But the thing
yeah,
is by experiencing Paris, no matter who you are, with Monique and her wonderful husband, and it's like when you go in a restaurant, the chef is going to know you too, and you experience from the restaurant to just all of the other businesses, and in the route that she would take you, you're experiencing it now, not only with the beauty of Paris, but from someone that is on the inside. And now that
mhm,
relationship will give you a different relationship also with the business owners and the chefs that you meet. And it's just an entirely different experience than what you would have otherwise. And so for you, for the listeners, if you're going to Paris, you've got to meet Monique and go on their tour, because no matter who you are, I mean, she's not going to ignore any of the other beautiful cultural things that and the arts that you can see in Paris. Is just you will experience it from a different set of eyes
different
and ears.
vantage point. Exactly.
So Monique, are you strictly doing the nonprofit and the servant leadership now, or do you still work in the veterinarian field?
So I had for many, many years a consulting business in preclinical safety training and mentoring. Well, actually, it was preclinical safety, period. But when I founded WIF, I decided to create a segment, a strategic focus area in preclinical safety training and mentoring in developing nations, because when I was operating my for-profit consulting business. What I did for, I guess, between 2005 and 2013, I was taking teams into South India and doing training in this area at a contract research organization there, very close to the city of Chennai. And I loved that work. That was some of the most important work that I ever did as a practicing veterinary pathologist and toxicologist. And so when I started the nonprofit, I decided that I wanted to do that work under the auspices of WIF. So I have since closed my for-profit consulting firm. I did that in November of 2021. But I do still have this ability to do this work under the auspices of the nonprofit.
Yes, and you're bringing youth into the vet field.
Yes, thanks to Sherita, because Sherita kept saying, Monique, well, because she has moved to Arkansas and is living on a farm, and there are real issues in Arkansas with regard to veterinary care for animals and the lack of veterinarians that are available, et cetera, et cetera. And Sherita also loves youth, and thing led to thing, and we started the Youth Veterinarian Initiative together. And that has been in operation since June of 2021. So we are marching toward the end of our second year of operation for YVI. And in September of 2022, so during the second academic year that we've been in operation, we started a book club and merit badge program. And I have to say that that has been, it's very difficult work, I will say, but it is also just so uplifting and gives so much joy to have kids learning about the possibilities of working with animals, whether they think they want to be a veterinarian, or whether they think they want to be a vet tech, or whether they want to do something else with animals. We are bringing them all kinds of, we are giving them the possibility to encounter people who look like them. Black and brown youth are able to meet Black and brown professionals who are working with animals in all kinds of capacities. The veterinary field is one of the least diverse in the United States. And we have to start young to get people to understand that this even exists as a possibility for them. And then if they decide, well, I think I might want to try that, then what does it actually take for you to make it there?
Yeah. And YBI is featuring vets from all over the world, from the Caribbean to Texas and Monique, you're now in the Bronx School District. And
yes,
I mean, she's expanded and it's just that.
So the youth initiative, Sherita, I think, did you do one there in Arkansas? I mean, is it done virtually or in person, or?
It's virtual.
It's all virtual.
All virtual.
But what Monique and I were discussing, the goal is to have the youth, and that's why I'm working to get the youth camp going with the mobile homes that I have donated and that kind of thing. Hopefully with Joey's help, we will have them rehabbed, the donated facilities, so that we have the bunk houses for the girls and the boys. We're looking at bringing kids here in August. That's what I'm preparing for, so that the kids that have been on virtually all this time can now meet each other in person, and we have a 3-day camp.
Okay. Now, is that led by you, Monique? Is Monique leading this and guiding them and educating them?
So yes and no. So we are going to have to put together a curriculum for these kids. We definitely want them to have hands-on experience with animals, so we will have to find opportunities for them to do that. Sherita has animals on her property, but we definitely want them to go not only to Sherita's property, but also we want them to see veterinarians in action. We want them to go to the Little Rock Zoo. There are all kinds of things that we want them to do. And 3 days is actually not a long time. So we're going to have to be very, very, very judicious about what we organize for them.
for instance, Lily Ice is a horse farrier, a horseshoer here in Arkansas, and she's been on and demonstrated. She's been on twice, as a matter of fact,
Mhm.
on the virtual, and she's here locally in Arkansas, and so we've already spoken with her about coming and bringing a horse and maybe demonstrating about horseshoeing. But she also has a horse arena that part of what we would like to do is take the kids to the arena and maybe even give them opportunity to also ride. So we've got things that we've been planning. Last year, I had reached out to the Arkansas Zoo, to the Little Rock Zoo, and we would like to start a collaboration with them because they even had, for COVID, they even had a virtual program. And so there's things that we've got in the making, but I've just been here trying to get the land situated and get it planned for us to have the camp. So even last year, I had reached out to a couple of the local camps to see if I didn't have my grounds ready, could we come to their camp? And it's just been very hard to get some response back to a couple of the local camps that are close in the area. But that's just part of what Monique and I have been working on to extend. I'm no longer working with YBI because of my obligations here and with other clients, but we're still talking regularly so that we can plan to get the camp going. And because what a lot of people also don't realize, airlines will give vouchers for programs. And Celeste, you and we've talked about that even in the grant class. When you have a nonprofit and you've got a program, well, if we're working with kids that normally cannot afford it, we would be looking at getting vouchers for them to be able to fly here and come to camp. So there's a lot that we need to make happen in these next few months. So for you listeners, if you would like to be involved, maybe as a sponsor or a donation, we will have that available and you can help support kids coming to camp. So.
Yes.
Well, and you know me, Sherita, the wheels are turning right here. So what I hear you saying is at this camp, all of those students were from the Little Rock, Arkansas area, were from what your people, right, around your area?
We were going to be looking at kids coming locally, but we were also looking at, and that's what the Merit Badge program is for those kids that have done great and earned merit badges. Those will be the ones that could fly in from out of Arkansas that could come to camp also.
So, living here in Atlanta with the Women of Community Impact and with WCEG, we need to collaborate and put something together that we can make this our youth initiative.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what we need to do.
Yes, yes. Monique, I'm talking to Celeste already about becoming one of the chapters under her women's initiative, under her program. And because there isn't a chapter in Arkansas. So that would be great, Celeste, for us to make that part of it. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow, just look how things start to come together.
Yeah.
The Bible always says you speak things into existence.
Exactly.
Yes,
I wanted to. So Monique, tell us, you're coming up on your 8th anniversary, and which of your projects and programs have you had the greatest impact to date?
Oof.
I know there's so many.
So many, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So
you even had COVID pages. You were bringing the arts.
Yes.
During COVID.
Yes. We did in 2021. We did an online art exhibition called COVID-19 Pages: The Influence and Inspiration of Women. This was a global project. We had women artists, professional women artists from 5 countries represented in our show, and we had a second phase of that exhibition where we did community. We asked community organizations, schools and community organizations, to have their participants, members, etc., contribute artwork. And we had, I think, for the community groups, 3 countries were represented. And we did, in conjunction with that, a 4-day online event called Art in Conversation, where we talked about the benefits of using art as a tool for healing. And this was just an absolutely magnificent project. The online exhibition is still available for viewing. And from that, we have wanted to start a program to support women artists in financial literacy. We've not actually been able to find the funding for that yet, but that is something that is sort of burning on the back, well, burning, it's simmering on the back burner. And one of the young women whose work was featured in Art and Conversation is now a part of an Andrew W. Mellon Foundation project, thanks to the fact that she was part of Art and Conversation. So, and she's in the Philippines. So, so this is an example of something that is global. Certainly our Youth Veterinarian Initiative is making tremendous impact. That's national. We have 4 schools that are participating now in the YVI Book Club and Merit Badge Program: the Bronx, Newark, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, and Houston, Texas. Our L-Cubed Alliance, a membership program, is coming up onto the end of its first year. And that, as I said, is global, because we have, well, international anyway, because we have women from both sides of the Atlantic participating in that. I mean, we're working with an organization in the DMV area. They have brought 2 cohorts of underrepresented high school students to Paris for the first time. These kids have gotten a passport for the first time. They've come to Paris and they are visiting, thanks to WIF, they are visiting colleges here and considering enrolling in school in Paris.
That's awesome.
And the DMV area is Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia.
Virginia, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, speaking of women, now, Monique, tell us your 2023 International Business Women's Day. Has it already transpired, or is it coming up in this month, or?
No, so International Business Women's Day is September 22nd.
Okay. Okay.
And we will be doing that in Houston, Texas. It will be our first live event in Houston, our home, my home and WIP's home. And we are gearing up right now. I mean, I think by tomorrow, our webpage will go live. We are just doing the final tweaks on it. There's been a lot of back and forth with the web designer today. And we are going to be accepting nominations for awards that we are going to distribute. Our focus is on successful business women who mentor. Mentoring is something that is very important for our women's group, and just everything that WIF does with regard to women's empowerment and other areas, other strategic focus areas. And we want to take advantage of the opportunity to celebrate women who are successful in business and who give back to society by mentoring other women and by mentoring girls.
Well, I guess that kind of answers what I was going to ask next, because I was going to say, what do you want to accomplish by hosting this event?
That is what we want to accomplish. This is going to be a fundraiser, so we want to raise money. Okay, but really the theme and what we're doing in terms of legacy building for WIF, for myself as an individual, as the founder and CEO, and for the organization, and for all the women who are mentoring. This is part of your legacy, and legacy is a recurring theme in everything that we do. We want people to understand that legacy is not just something that you are working for, you want to be remembered for after you're gone. It is something you want to be known for today and tomorrow and every day of your life. And I can't think of too much that is more important than paying things forward. Someone helped you, you should help someone else, as many someone else's as you can, and just infuse them with your knowledge, with your passion, with your expertise, with your wisdom, to make this world a better place. And women, we need each other. I firmly believe that women are the salvation of this planet.
Yeah.
And we need to step up we need to shine bright, and we need to pull other women and girls forward.
Amen to
Very
that.
well said, Monique.
Yes.
You know, my passion is mentoring and helping the youth, and you have just won my heart over tonight. Just your passion and empathy that you have to want to help and mentor young people. One thing that I picked up, Monique, on what you said that I definitely want to learn more about, Sherita, is that a lot of the programs and things that the WIF is doing and globally and in the United States is a lot of this is being done online via Zoom,
Yes.
correct? You know, we
Yes.
don't, you know, it's great to be in person, but, you know, people say, well, I want to do this, you know, and they want to plan 6 months out and do this. You know, it's been on my heart to want to do a youth initiative for 3 years. 3 or 4 years. And so, you know, I look forward to us collaborating on how we can put that into action, you know, by the fall. But I love the fact that we can do some of this mentoring and bringing people in all over the world. And Penny, I hope you're listening loud and clear to me here, how we can bring them in online.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think it's funny. Penny's texting me while we're talking here. She's texting on there. Yes, yes, yes.
You've heard me say it before. Yes, COVID wreaked havoc all over the world. And many of us either lost someone or know someone that lost someone to COVID. But like with everything, there's always a rainbow after the storm if you look for it. And even though many of us were doing virtual before COVID, what COVID did is it opened everyone's eyes up to the possibility of what can happen virtually. I mean, telemed just exploded. People attended funerals, birthday parties. I mean, I attended a women's day out where we were drinking wine together from all over the world, and we were on virtually having our women's time, you know, so it opened everyone's eyes up. Monique, remember years ago when your mom was talking about how she did Bible study, and I said, you know, you can do that virtually, right?
Yes.
And she just kept thinking, oh, I don't think I could do that. And now people attended their church services virtually. And so
Yes.
that's what it did. There isn't a business, an idea that you can't also incorporate a virtual component. And if you're not considering that, you're really missing out. Monique and I have stayed in touch from the years that we've known each other because we speak virtually. We were doing virtual with each other back in 2013. I still have a video where you and I are on, and I'm like, Monique, it's so good to talk to you, and you're bringing me to Paris. And that was in 2012, I think, 2013. And so, so now that more people, students even going to school, doing e-learning, they now, that because they've done it, they can do fun things now and not just, one of our teachers, Barb, who you've met, Monique, virtually, said that she had to make her students turn on the camera because when they were supposed to be doing e-learning, they didn't have their camera on and they were playing their game or even out of the room. So they wouldn't even get the grade if their camera wasn't on and she could see them. And so, again, virtually, that's what COVID did as a positive.
Absolutely. I mean, my wheels are just a spinning, and we're gonna have a call afterwards. But so Sherita, one thing, and for you and Monique here. So tell us a little bit more. I guess the WIF is in Houston. Tell us more about that. I mean, you have things, you have board of directors, you have people that are doing things in Houston in the area, and they collaborate with you over in Paris. Can you be a little more specific with that?
Sure. So we have a volunteer. We have a couple of volunteers in Houston, and they do very specific things. One of my board members is in Sugar Land, which is outside of Houston. One of my board members is in South Florida. And the rest of my board members are on this side of the Atlantic. Okay. And we just make it work. We have projects and programs in any given year, we have a project or a program that is more or less local, and we have project or program that is national to international in scope. And it just depends on the people power that we have and the finances that we have, how those things run. We did a 2-year project with Knoxville, Tennessee and Paris, France, based on Buford Delaney. This was virtual for the vast majority of it, but after about a year, the students from Knoxville, these were 7 to 10-year-old kids, came to Paris to meet their counterparts at the elementary school that we were working with in Paris. We have these high school students that are coming from, mostly they're from the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. They are coming to Paris. They are meeting university students who are enrolled in Paris colleges and universities, and they are creating a network. They are building a network internationally, and these kids have never left the US before. These are the kinds of things that we're all about. And we want everyone who is involved with our projects and programs to think that international is normal.
Yes.
Thinking internationally is normal. We are cultivating global citizens.
Yes, yes.
And see, and that's what with Monique being international and in Paris, when you're wanting to go after grants, for right now, the US is the largest country when it comes to nonprofits and grant funders. So grant funders would prefer that you are a US-based organization that is doing international projects. For one, that saves them paperwork. 2, they know the laws and regulations and all of that of the US. And so all they have to do is give to a US-based organization. So, but your board does not have to be local either. So just like how Monique has board members all over the world, the same can happen. And now people can see it more easily because they see that they can have their meetings virtually. So another one of my clients, they're doing projects in Pakistan. And I was on with my client in Pakistan, but their other counterpart is in Atlanta. So we developed their nonprofit in Atlanta, but it's doing projects in Pakistan. And the same thing with another project that's in Nigeria, putting in water towers. Bumi is in New York. And she's in Maryland. And so again, your nonprofits, if you're going to do international work, especially if you're wanting to go after grants, it's best to be based out of the US and then do your international projects.
Absolutely. You know, in downtown Lawrenceville, and I've had McCall showcase her geos and things here in Lawrenceville, Georgia, because she used to do shows in Franklin, North Carolina, the gym shows. And 2 ladies, Carolyn Wright and Sylvia Culberson, they're probably about my age, and I'm proud of my age, about 67 years of age. And if they're not, forgive me, Carolyn and Sylvia. But they were African-American ladies that had the most beautiful, beautiful art gallery called the Lona Gallery in downtown Lawrenceville. And they would host networking events for us. They had a networking event, and we would go there once a month for this networking event. And they also had a showroom where we could rent that room and have meetings and stuff. And they ended up having to close the gallery down because it wasn't anything they did. Just the person that owned the business, the building, wanted it for something else. But what class and clarity that it brought to the arts of downtown Lawrenceville. And it's truly, truly a missed organization that in the downtown Lawrenceville area. And I can't wait to share this show tonight with both of them because they were phenomenal ladies, and they work with the Hudgens Heart Center here, which is a huge, huge art center here. They worked with them and did things with them And it is so important that we're introducing the younger generation, especially the people of color, to the arts and international and things of this nature. So what an enlightening show today, Sherita and Monique. I just love the education that we have given to our audience. So Monique, we have about 4 minutes, and what I'd love for you to do, I know your information is in the chat, and I'm sure Penny has shared it. We're live on YouTube and social media. So tell our audience how they can get a hold of you, or any last words of wisdom, or about your event, your gala, your donations, anything you'd like to share, please.
Okay, well, first of all, every nonprofit needs donations. We just put out our donor impact report for 2022 today. And if you want to go to our website and just click on About Us under there, there's a drop down, and you can read all of the magnificent things that our donors have supported over the course of last year and all of the years prior. We could not exist without our donors. We are gearing up. We are becoming an organization that is receiving more and more grants, but we have been living since our inception on donations by individuals who are passionate about the things that we are passionate about. And so please, if any of this that you have heard tonight resonates with you, please go to our website. There's all big buttons everywhere to say donate. Click there and give. There's just so much that's there for you to support in so many different areas. And we will definitely appreciate you for that. To get in touch, and the website is www.wells-international-foundation.org. You don't even have to type www. If you type in wells-international-foundation.org, you will find us, and you will see on our beautiful homepage everything that we've done in all of our strategic focus areas, and just start clicking. But don't forget that donate button at the top.
I love
it.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, Sherita, what an honor and privilege to meet Dr. Monique Wells. Thank you for bringing her on as our guest tonight. It was very educational, informative. It has stirred a strong passion in my heart, and I know it has Penny's. And I can tell you that this conversation will be taken offline, and the wheels will be put in motion right away for some things that we can collaborate on with our own separate nonprofits that we can do together to give back. And we have the skill, we have the knowledge, we have the women that can do this. And so, Sherita, any closing comments that you would like to say? We have about a minute left.
No, just thank you, Monique, for coming on. Again, Celeste, thank you for allowing me to be here and to co-host with you. It's always an honor.
Absolutely. And again, we want to thank our listeners and audience. Dr. Monique Wells with the Wells International Foundation. We have Sherita Herring with Philanthropy Alliance. Is that right? And Celeste Giordano with the Women of Community Impact and CelesteGiordano.com. And we also are very grateful for WCEG Talk Radio, Penny Rogers, her board. And we also want to congratulate them that last year on 2022, WCEG Talk Radio was the #1 community and talk radio with the international platform. So congratulations, Penny and board. And we look forward to our next show, which is going to be the day after my birthday, March 28th. And we have 2 more phenomenal ladies lined up. We're going to talk to a nonprofit with Showability about disabilities. And then we also have another young lady, Deidre Cox, is going about a nonprofit here in Atlanta. So we're going to have a great time on March 28th. And just like to wish each and every one of you a wonderful and blessed evening. It's time for Monique to go to bed, and and a great week. So, and thank our listeners, and put any comments or questions in the chat. because we'll go online afterwards and we can answer those as well. So have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Monique.
Au revoir. Au revoir.